Welcome to the Steelbirds podcast, starring your hosts, Corey King and Harry Brockington IV, a.k.a. Brock. What's good, man?
What's going on, man?
Been a little bit, you know.
Took a little
break.
break.
4th off, you know. There's nothing going on anyways.
Right.
People are
not gonna
missing
just
us.
throw content out there just to throw it out there. Can't do
Yeah,
that.
man. Yeah, no, that's facts. But so we're getting into it now. We're just talking about, Hall of Fame game is coming up. The Ravens rookies reported to training camp as of today, July 13th. We're recording this, and it's about that time, man. So today we're going to, just rank the 32 teams in the NFL, do a power rank, preseason power rank, and over the next couple of weeks we'll kind of just talk about different things and figure out how these teams are shaking out before we get into the thick of camp and the preseason. So that's about it. If you're ready, we can just hop right into it.
Let's get right into it.
So we're gonna start from 32 and rank our way to the number one team in the NFL this year that we think is the number one team in the NFL this year. So go ahead and start us off, man. Who do you think is going to be ass?
Man, there's going to be a lot of teams that's in that that's in that
a lot
sludge.
Of teams competing for ass.
Right. So, man, but when we talked about off here, when I look at strength of schedule and then just based off of how the roster is constructed right now, after free agency and after the draft, two teams really stick out to me. And I'm going to go with the Broncos at 32. I know a lot of people, have been talking about Patriots being pretty bad this year still. Maybe even the Cardinals and then like the Panthers. For me, I would say Panthers and Broncos are right there. But for me, I think that Bryce is going to have a good year this year. I think him having a new head coach, them getting the pieces that I felt like he should have gotten his rookie year, kind of what Caleb and CJ, got. I think they could have, done a better job doing that his rookie year, but I think they did that now. He's a year into the league. And so I think they're going to struggle still, but I think they're going to do a lot better than what they did last year. So I'm going to go with the Broncos. Don't trust their QB room. Whoever is going to start, that's going to be a shit show in my opinion. Offensively, nothing to really talk about on the offensive side of the ball, and then defensively they have obviously Pat Surtain. I think he's best corner in the league, so they at least have that. But all around, it's just nothing to really report. So I don't think they're a dangerous team whatsoever. So I'm gonna have them at 32.
Yeah. I don't have them ranked highly either. Well, I guess I can talk about them when I get to them. But for me, my 32 is going to be the Giants.
Okay.
I think the vibes are just bad already. This Hard Knocks offseason shit is not helping. People are destroying them and their decision making. It's just not looking good for them. They lost their best player on offense, and they're putting all their hopes and prayers into Daniel Jones and a rookie receiver to try and keep them afloat. And I don't care how good that D-line is going to be with Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think the rest of the team is good enough to compete, especially in that division with my Eagles and Cowboys and what I assume to be a decent Commanders team this year. I don't think the Giants are going to really do much.
They can have that great defense all they want. How are you scoring points?
Right. They don't score more than 10. So, and just being a hater of the Giants, I just, I don't see it. I don't think they have the guy at QB, and I don't think they have the roster. I think they have a good coach, but that can only take you so far when you don't have the pieces. So, I'm gonna have them at 32.
Okay, I definitely forgot about them.
Exactly.
Hard Knocks is on right now, and I've been watching it, so I don't know how I forgot about that. But I would definitely have to agree with that. I feel like because I feel like they do have a decent trio of wide receivers. I do not trust Daniel Jones, just like you said.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like the Bron. Yeah. So I'm gonna go for 31. Man, it's tough because a lot of these teams, we could be completely wrong. Like some of these teams could, be in the middle of the pack or just
Yeah.
impress. Like how people thought that, the Texans would probably be picking in the top 5 again,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
just went crazy. So it's really hard. But I'm gonna
Definitely.
go. I'm gonna have to go with the Raiders, man.
Okay.
Big fan of Antonio Pierce. And it's sucks to say, but I just again that QB room I'm really not understanding. Obviously we're watching, well, most people right now are watching receiver, and so if you're watching that, you see how frustrated Devontae Adams was. You see what was going on in the locker room, and immediately when they moved off of Jimmy G, which we now know was
And
a
and
big
Josh McDaniels too. Yeah.
right, him getting fired, but we know that
Yeah.
Jimmy G being moved off of was partially because of Devontae. He came out and
Yeah.
said it straight up and said that.
Right.
And they went to Aiden O'Connell, but I don't really, him being a little bit better than Jimmy G is not saying much. So I'm really not understanding why they didn't try to, really go after and attack the QB spot. And then with their first round pick, they choose Brock Bowers, who we know is going to be a great weapon and tight end, but they already had, a tight end that did pretty well in Michael Mayer from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So their draft process did not make sense to me. Like I said, love Antonio Pierce, love what he was able to do at the end of the season for them, but I think they're going to struggle. And it's going to be unfortunate for Devontae being, the competitor that he is, and we see, what he's wanting really the back end of his career. So I'm going to have the Raiders at 31.
Yeah. Yeah. It sucks for such a great player like him to kind of go out sad if this is how his career ends up
It's going to end,
going.
yeah.
Especially because as soon as he left, it seemed like the Packers kind of figured it out. So
yeah,
it's a double sad, double jab on my guy Devontae.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. For me at 31, I'm going with the Patriots. I did actually like what they did in the draft for the first time in a long time. The post Belichick era, it seems like they're kind of more drafting with consensus and putting the right pieces out there. But with that being said, just kind of based on their history, I know it's a new GM, whatever, but I don't think they've hit on a receiver in my lifetime in the draft. So I'm gonna wait and see. I liked Javon Baker and Jalen Polk coming out the draft, but
Same.
they that's they got to do a lot to really help that offense because Juju and them is not enough. So those rookies really got to show out, and that's putting a lot of pressure on that offense. And that rookie QB that they have, Drake May, there's just a lot of new pieces that need to work right away for them to compete because they have, I believe, according to Warren Sharp's strength of schedule metric, they have the second hardest schedule to the Steelers, so they're already in a tough spot.
Okay.
The defense is solid, but is it going to be as good as it was without Belichick? We'll see. So new GM, new coach, new pieces. I'm not sure that what they did in this offseason is enough to push them past, bottom 2-3 team in the league. So that's why I got them 30 at 31.
Okay.
Yep.
Definitely can see that.
Yep.
Actually, they're going to be my 30th team, and for the same reason, just regardless of who ends up starting, it could obviously be Jacoby Brissett. We know that he's back over there, so it could be him. He's always been a great QB2, having to start for a team wherever he's been at. He's been said to be a great leader. Locker room presence. Everyone likes him and everything like that. But usually when he is on the team, he has decent to kind of great to build off of, his NFL knowledge and him being a vet. And this time he's not really going to have that. You talked about, having Javon and Jalen Polk. But those are two rookie guys. And so I don't think he's going to be able to kind of do what he's been able to do before. If he's the starter to keep them afloat. And then obviously if Drake May flashes and they really like him and he ends up starting, I think he's going to struggle. He's going to be a rookie. So some of the things that maybe Jacoby could prevent because he's a vet, I obviously, don't think that Drake's going to be able to do that, seeing everything for the first time. So I definitely think they're going to struggle. And then obviously, like you said, the schedule does not help them at all with them having so many weaknesses on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I definitely think they're gonna be a top 3 pick. So I got them at 30.
Yeah. So now 30 for me, I have the Broncos sliding in there. You kind of put out all the reasons why we think they're not going to be a great team. So I don't have to, really say too much more. But just to reiterate, like the offense is, it's another we'll see situation, especially when we don't even know who their QB is going to be. Like we think it's going to be Bo Nix because that's who they drafted in the first round. But we'll see. He has to, win the job, and the defense just, like you said, has one of if not the best corner in the league, but not a whole lot else. So it's just a tough situation for them coming off of paying Russell Wilson all that money and making that trade for him, and that just ended up being a total disaster for them. So I don't think it's time yet for them to really get out of that slump.
No, yeah.
But if Bo Nix ends up being decent and they have some pieces that come along, then maybe next year they can start to
build off of it
and head in the right direction. But yeah, I don't see it happening this year. So I got them at 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And then 29 for me, I'm going to go with the Panthers.
Okay.
I said that, I felt like they would have a better season, but I didn't mean, anything crazy. Slightly better than what they did last season. So still have them having a top 5 pick in 25 draft. But I feel like Bryce has a better season. We see Dave Canales kind of get him settled in and really being able to read, NFL defenses better. I still believe in Bryce. He has flashes. It's just like it was his first year, and then he went to a really terrible situation. So it was like, he's not that great to where he can overcome all those things like a Patrick Mahomes or a CJ Stroud and stuff like that. So I think he's going to need that time. But I think this year we see him kind of not step on the scene, but like put it together to where we know, okay, he can be their quarterback, and then they're just going to need throughout these next few drafts kind of build around him. So excited to see if that can really happen. Their defense is not the greatest, so obviously they lost, as you said already, Brian Burns, and so that's going to kind of be hard as well, because when you don't have a defense that can keep you off the field, you're having to do more. And then when you're a second-year player, you're probably going to want to maybe do a little bit too much to try to be the hero and try to save so that they don't have to go back out there, type of thing. So I think that's probably kind of where they're going to be at, and still have top picks. So I got them at 29.
Yeah, I got the same exact position for them. Same deal. We'll hopefully Bryce comes along like you're saying, and with trading for Deontay Johnson, then getting Xavier Legette in the draft. They're trying to do him right and get him some pieces. So hopefully they all kind of mesh together and they can create a decent offense that can score some points last year. Because it seemed at towards the end of the year last year, it seemed like the Panthers were kind of looking better offensively, and then I think they ended the season getting shut out 2 games in a row or something, and it was just like, oh shit, like what happened? So not the best way to finish their season, but hopefully, like you said, with Dave Canales, who we've seen now has kind of been able to do some things with QBs, like with Baker last year. He can, bring Bryce along and
definitely,
show that he can play in this league. So
yeah,
29 is, I think, a fair spot for them. So yeah, now you are back at it at 28.
Now at 28, now I'm gonna have the Giants.
Okay. Yep.
There, a lot. I don't know how he got the nickname Danny Dimes. I know, a dime is, you putting the ball on a rope right where it needs to be. I haven't seen him do that enough to get that nickname.
Right.
But hey, it rhymes with his name, so whatever. But dude, he has huge issues taking care of the ball, fumbles a lot. Great athlete. He can run, he's big, 6'4". So I can understand kind of the, thought process in drafting him, but we really haven't really seen it from him. And so, and having two big injuries, he had the neck, now he has the ACL. Again, we're watching the in-season, Hard Knocks, and we're seeing them say, this is his year to prove it, or else we need to move on. Like it's been very, vocal with their vision, I guess, of what they're wanting to do for these next couple years. And so he's not going to have any excuses this season, specifically on offense. They have a decent trio of wide receivers. They got Malik Neighbors. I think he's going to be, really good right away as a rookie. They have Jalen Hyatt. They had forget his name. Darius Slayton. He wanted to kind of test the waters.
Yeah.
But then they gave him some incentives, and he's coming back. So he's going to have some dudes. Wandale Robinson, forgetting about him too. He has some guys. So they also replaced Darren Waller with Theo Johnson, the tight end out of Penn State. He had really good tape. So offensively, he's not going to be able to have the excuses. And then, as you already said, defensively, they're going to have a top defensive line. They have Deontay Banks. He's coming along, second-year corner out of Maryland. And so I think even if he plays average, he's out of there. So I just really don't believe in him mainly. And I think, they're going to have a top pick, get a QB, and then maybe they start to build off that QB because they have the weapons and everything on offense. But I just, the QB position is huge. Obviously, we know in today's game, and he's just not it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. Well said. Now 28 for me. I'm gonna slide the Raiders in there now.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, our guy Devontae was really going through it last year,
Right.
mentally and physically. It was a rough go round, and we're both rooting for AP, Antonio Pierce, the head coach, but at the same time, the QB position is not looking great. Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, and whoever it ends up being, in that division especially, good luck.
Right.
You might be able to beat up on the Broncos, but Chargers are going to be much better this year.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and I didn't really understand their thought process in the draft, getting Brock Bowers instead of a piece that can really help their team, like a quarterback or
right.
maybe some sort of defender that can do something. But
right.
That's the Raiders for you. Sometimes they like to make the flashy splash pick and get the fans all excited for another disappointing year. So
you would think with a new GM and new head coach that wouldn't be the thought process again, is doing something the same way, but
hey. Yeah. So that's why they're the Raiders.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm gonna have them at 28, and I would not be surprised if they end up being worse than that, just based on kind of how it's all set up this season.
Right.
But yeah. So now you got 27.
Yeah, so now this is kind of where it gets real gets kind of tough with these teams that can kind of be in the same type of area and the same type of circumstances. But I'm gonna go with 27. I'm gonna go with the Titans, man. I'm gonna go with the Titans. Yep. Now I do think Will Levis is gonna be good in the league. Just based off of what his tape was as a junior, and he had the weapons, he had the offensive line, and then you see he had a couple injuries his senior year, but also lost those offensive linemen and then those weapons and kind of fell off. So we kind of seen what he looks like when he is healthy and he has, talent around him. And so I feel like if the Titans can build that around him and he can be smart, because, he's the big athletic, muscular buff quarterback that wants to show that he's an alpha dog. It's like, man, you're going to have to calm that down, because there's other dudes who are like you or a lot worse than you when it comes to being violent. They will mess you up. So he has to kind of learn how to get down and do that type of thing. But I believe in him. I think he has the arm. He shows that he can process quick enough. So I think building around him, I don't think they're going to be looking for a quarterback. I think he'll be their quarterback, but it's not going to be good for them this year. I do not care that they got Calvin Ridley. I do not believe in their wide receiver corps whatsoever. They lose Derrick Henry, obviously. So,
hey, come on now! They got my guy Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I like Tony, but he's not the same.
No, I feel you.
He even said, after he didn't feel right till the end of last season after breaking his leg. And so they got, I believe, Tank Bigsby. Is that?
No, that's Jags.
Oh, that's right. They have a running back that was
Tajay Spears.
Tajay Spears, yeah. He he has the speed back, change of pace back. So they might be okay when it comes to running the ball. They did draft J.C. Latham, so I think the line will be decent. But I just right now the wide receiver corps is pretty weak to me. Their defense is whatever. So I think it's going to kind of be a wait and see type of thing with them. But I think at least that they did hit on quarterback. But we'll have to see how he does this year. It was obviously limited tape, but what we saw was good. So hopefully he can expand off of that. He doesn't just fall off a cliff. But I think he has the tools and the intangibles to be at least average, if not above average in the league. So we'll kind of see where they're at. But I think they'll still have a top pick.
Yeah. No, like you were saying, I have them at 27 as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But like you were saying with him, I was listening, I think it was Kyle Brandt on Mina Kimes podcast. They were talking about the Bills and like when Josh Allen first came into the league, he like hurdled Anthony Barr, and people were like, "What are you doing?" Like that's like what someone needs to slap some sense into Will Levis and be like, "All right, man, like we get it. You're a dog, but let's be healthy and safe out there." I liked all the reasons why you have them where they're at, but also for me, one of the biggest things that I feel like people aren't really talking about is they got rid of their head coach, Mike Vrabel, who was an unbelievable head coach, kind of for no reason. I don't really know why. I think maybe he wanted to move on and try and find better, but he didn't end up getting a job, like a head coaching job. So kind of didn't work out for either side here, because Titans definitely lost a lot with him going, and he didn't gain anything by getting a new job anywhere. So
I think he is with the Browns, unfortunately. For the Steelers.
I just meant like as a head coach.
Right.
But so he's with the Browns, and then the Titans head coach now is Brian Callahan, and his dad is
their O-line coach.
The old Browns O-line used to be the Browns O-line coach. But so they have some decent pieces. It's like a solid looking team. They signed L'Jarius Sneed at corner, so all around the vibes are high. But it's also just like, this is a team I think that would be able to win some more games if they had Mike Vrabel at coach. But with Brian Callahan, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Yeah, a lot of coaches have had talent and haven't been able to do much with it. So we'll see.
I think we only really seen D'Amico do. If I can think of recent memory, do very well as a rookie head coach. You know what I mean? So it's not, regardless if you're going to end up being a good head coach and you're going to figure it out, everyone, just like the QB position, is going to go through those hurdles of, their first time. And maybe, kind of like a Arthur Smith situation. Maybe you just are a really good play caller, either whether it's going to be a defensive coordinator or offense coordinator, and you're just not suited to be a head coach. And maybe that's what will be for him. Hopefully he does his thing. But yeah, to your point, that is, a huge part of it. And so we'll see where they're at, but not looking that promising.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're at 26. What you got?
So 26, I'm going to have, as you would call them, the Aints. I'm going to have the New Orleans Saints. We talked about it, talked about them off air yesterday, just about, them having some type of confidence. One of their players tweeted saying that, he had
no doubt,
no doubt in them winning the Super Bowl. And so many things in the world would have to go wrong for that to happen. So many things. So for me, yet again, QB situation. I'm sorry. I was a Derek Carr fan for a good minute, until that 2016 season when he broke his leg. But he just hasn't been the same since. I think I told you right when it happened that I think Spencer Rattler is going to take his job eventually.
Yeah.
I can easily see that happening. And even we don't know. I'm not saying Spencer's going to be a superstar, but they just don't have it, man. I'm sorry. They just don't. I mean, Alvin Kamara hasn't looked right. He hasn't looked like, the superstar running back that he was early on. I feel like, he's gotten into some trouble, done some dumb things and had some injuries, but I don't know what he's going to look like. I like Chris Olave, but it's just like, you can be the superstar wide receiver if you want to, but you got to get the ball. And I just feel like even if Spencer does, start, he's going to be a rookie. So there could be some struggles there. I think they have Shaheed. He kind of came on. I like his game. So I think they have, a couple guys there, but it's just like the QB situation is always going to screw you if you don't have that, down packed. And so that's an issue. And then defensively, they got a trio of decent corners. I like their DBs, but I don't trust their D-line whatsoever. Don't trust their linebackers whatsoever. And so, I don't like the coach either. I'm sorry.
Definitely not.
Don't like the coach. So, they're just going to be kind of whatever. I guess if I have them at 26, that's not, a top 10 pick yet, but it's still right there in the beginning. So I don't see them really making any type of noise. And with that division being so weak, that's that's not. I wouldn't say if you're going to be a team that's going to be picking top 10, but you're in one of the weakest divisions, that's not a great sign of where your front office is at, where your head coaching is at and all that, because if you're in one of the weakest divisions, you should be running that division. Even if overall in the conference you're not doing well, you still should be able to run your division, especially it's one of the worst in the NFL. So that's where I got them at 26. I don't think they're gonna really make any kind of splashes this year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'll talk about them more when I get to them, because I'm probably have them coming up, but I think for me at 26, it's time to slot the Commanders in there. That's a team. I think that's, I think they're trying to do the right things, shake off the Dan Snyder stank off the organization.
Yeah,
they have a new ownership group. They signed some good vets like Zach Ertz and kind of blanking on. They had some like older signings of like good vets, just good dudes. So I think they're just overall trying to change the culture and change the vibes there. And then they get a QB that looks like he can play, hopefully. So I think they're all just trying to do the right things and take that next step. But with that being said, I don't really know how good they're going to be with said QB. And with Dan Quinn as their head coach, he had a good defense in Dallas, but you also had Michael Parsons and
dogs,
Trayvon Diggs, and you had all these pieces around you. It's not going to be like that in Washington. So I don't really see them being some great team. I just think they're going to look and feel better than in years past.
Right.
But yeah, I'm gonna have them at 26. Still a top 10 pick, but just people at the draft next year are gonna be like, Commanders turned it around. They're looking good. They just need some pieces, and that's basically gonna be it. I don't see them making any sort of noise. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually have them at 25. So
Okay. Well,
definitely agree with what you said. I think Jaden Daniels is actually going to surprise a lot of people. I really like his tape. Another thing with him, he didn't really, he did it a little bit at LSU where he didn't really get down and try to, bully some people. He played in the SEC, so those are big, fast, stronger dudes, but still in the NFL. So would like to see him not do that. He didn't do it too much though, so I'm not too worried about that. But as far as his running ability, him being able to put, the ball on a dot on a line somewhere, he did all those things and he did it consistently. The only thing I'm concerned with him is just kind of the offense that they were in, which is kind of just, run fades, run a post. It's not going to be that easy, and it's not going to be your wide receivers being, that much more talented, because even though, he did play in the SEC, he had Malik Neighbors and he had Brian Thomas Jr., they're just too elite. He had a tandem with them. And so, but I think he has the talent. And as you said, if they build around him, I think he's going to be nasty in the league, man. Really, really like his tape. So, but with that being said, defensively, I think they did random sign. They have Bobby Wagner. That was
another one. Yeah,
that they had random, but he's at the end of his career, obviously.
Right.
So collectively as a team, I don't think they're going to have it together yet. And then obviously they're going to have a rookie QB. It's more they're going to be kind of like establishing their identity of who they're going to be, going forward is kind of what their, process should be this season. And then just kind of seeing what they have in Jaden. So, I have them there just because of that. But I think eventually we're going to kind of see them figure it out, because obviously you can't be great at the top. There's stuff going on at the top, and they kind of already, got rid of that. And so now it's just kind of proving that they can make the right choices in the draft and in free agency. So we'll see what they do. So that's what I'm having at 25.
Yeah. And you mentioning the ease of his game in college compared to the NFL too. Like I forgot to mention that my nemesis, Cliff Kingsbury, is their offensive coordinator. We'll have to see, if he's able to scheme up a good offense for him. But I'm not looking forward to, I'd be pleasantly surprised if he's able to do well. But I don't like him. I don't think he's a good coach. So I don't see it. But for Jaden's sake, let's hope he can, maybe learn something on that one-way ticket trip to Thailand and figured out how to make a good offense.
Hopefully.
But yeah. Now 25 for me. I got the Saints in there now. Like you said, quarterback. I think Peter Schrager said this, or someone on Mina Kimes' podcast. She did a similar thing to us. She did like a Power Hour ranking with Ryan Clark and Kyle Brandt. But I think Kyle Brandt was saying, defenders say like when it's time to play the Saints, they're just like, when they talk about like preparing for the QB, they're like, yeah, that's not someone we worry about. They're worried about everything else. They don't give a shit what Derek Carr's doing out there, because it's like, you could have the best offense schemed up. You got Rashid Shaheed running down the sideline. You got Chris Olave on a crosser wide open, and Derek Carr's just checking it down to Alvin Kamara, out of fear of getting sacked. That's just kind of how their offenses look. So QB, coach, and just kind of the overall like philosophy of the Saints, just trying to like, I don't really know how they like. I don't really understand their process of roster building, over the years. We've talked about this before. I don't think they've drafted QB in the first round since the 70s or something. And
1970, exactly.
Yeah. And they, trade the year I thought they would. They traded up for, I think, Marcus Davenport, when I swore I thought they were getting Lamar Jackson. I was excited for him. They got Marcus Davenport or something instead. It's like, I don't I don't get how they run it down there. But all that just all that being said, I think I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year they have a new coach and a new QB.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler and an interim head coach is definitely on the table for them, and that would have them in the top 10 for sure. But that division is not great, so I expect them to have a few more wins than some of these other bottom teams. So that's why I got them where they're at. So.
Okay. So I think we're at 24 now.
Yes. Yep.
And this is where it's going to get kind of tough. It's going to be kind of the last bad to middle of the tier type of teams in the middle here. Excuse me. I'm gonna go with the Vikings.
Okay.
That division now is just really nasty now with like how you said earlier, the Packers have kind of figured it out. They feel that, Jordan Love is going to be that dude. They went 3 for 3 in their last drafts for quarterbacks, being able to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers and now him. The Lions have already arrived. We know what they're going to be. They're going to be really tough. And then now the Bears, even though with having Caleb and a rookie QB, they drafted very well around him. And so I think the Vikings are on the outside looking in, and they lose Kirk Cousins. I have absolutely, if it even made sense, I have negative faith in JJ McCarthy. I do not like his game at all. I'm sorry. He did things decently at Michigan here and there, but people, want to say he's a winner. He only lost once or twice in his, but it's like football is a team sport, 1, and 2. If you are the main reason why you're getting those wins, like a Patrick Mahomes or, a Lamar Jackson, then that's a little bit different. But he, you can ask anybody. He was not the main reason why they were winning those games. It was that defense. It was them being able to run the ball because they had a vicious offensive line. That's different. And he just didn't mess up enough or maybe at all certain games to put them out of being able to win. So that's not a first round amazing quarterback for me. And then we've already kind of seen what Sam Darnold has done in his career. Don't trust him at all. So even with them having Justin Jefferson, with them having Jordan Addison, he had a great rookie year. They have TJ Hawkinson, him too. They got a boy from the Packers came over there. Blanking on his name, running back. Where he switched
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones, so they have they have one of the best offensive lines too. So you would think but again, it all goes through the QB. So I think whoever's at QB is going to struggle. Their defense is, whatever. So I really do believe they're gonna struggle. They're gonna be at the bottom of their division for sure. So see how it shakes out, but I don't think it's looking good for them, and that's unfortunate because I really do like Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a great head coach. So
I got the same slot for them. I got them at 24 too. To all the points you're making, and even with the defense last year, Brian Flores had them playing way above their talent and skill level, and that's just kind of hard to replicate. Defense is kind of it's not linear. Defenses just don't get better every year. It's kind of positive and negative regression. They go up and down,
especially with injuries when you add that in there too.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be shocked if their defense takes a major step back this year just because they don't have the pieces in. Unfortunately, they also just tragically lost a draft pick that they had, Kyrie Jackson.
Oh yes, man. Rest in peace to him.
So that was someone that they were hoping to slot on that defense and play right away, but unfortunately, he's no longer with us. RIP. I agree. Kevin O'Connell, good coach. I think he can create a good offense with decent QB play, but we'll have to see if he can get that QB play. So 23 now is where we're at.
23. I think it's time to put the Cardinals on the clock here.
Okay.
Have them doing obviously as I have them slotted better than last year, which I believe is obviously reasonable to happen. They draft Marvin Harrison Jr., so I think Kyler is going to have a security blanket in that. I think he's going to have a great rookie year, Marvin Harrison Jr. Outside of him, though, I like their tight end Trey McBride out of Colorado State. He's a guy that's coming along. I like, and Kyler, trusted him a lot last season, threw him a lot of balls. So I think those two are going to be his main targets. Michael Wilson out of Stanford, actually is Chaminade alum. Really? went to my high school. Yeah, so
nice.
But he's had some injuries here and there, and he's not always consistent. When he has his good games, he kind of disappears after that. So and they lose. They lost Rondale Moore, who didn't really do much for them, anyways. And so and they have Greg Dortch. I do like his game. He's a smaller receiver. So maybe he steps into the wide receiver 2 role for them, but kind of outside of that, very average. Not a fan of James Conner. Everyone that knows me since he's been with the Steelers, not a fan of him.
Right.
They did get the running back out of Florida State, Trey Benson. I think he's gonna probably usurp him and get the RB1 role. I just feel like because of his running style, it's going to be probably better for James to come in goal line packages, and they have, Benson for, the other 3 downs. But defensively, we know how, it works for them. D-line is very average. Linebackers, people couldn't name them. So defensively, they're not, a top tier. And they obviously are in the division with the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Niners. And so that's always going to be tough having to play those teams twice. So I think they do better than they did last year, but they're still going to have some pieces to fill here. And I don't see them really being a force, until a few years, and they're able to get some of these drafts and hit on some of these pieces.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I think I'll probably have them somewhere around that same position. But I think for me at 23, I'm gonna put the Buccaneers in there.
Okay.
They. I would say don't let the way their season ended fool you. I think they kind of they lucked into playing the Eagles, who had already quit in the wild card round. They were not trying to win a game, and then they put up a decent fight against the Lions in the what is that, the divisional round? Yeah. But I don't think they were really that good of a team to get that far, and Baker is still kind of a question mark. I think he can play, but it's just I feel like Dave Canales really helped him out, and it's going to be interesting to see how he plays this year. I think he'll still be all right, but I don't know if they're going to be able to win their division again and sneak into the playoffs and make a run there.
Okay.
They got a solid defense, and a somewhat decent head coach, but just one of those teams where it's just like, yeah, last year they did okay, but are they really gonna run it back? And the Falcons should be a lot better, and
that's fair.
Their schedule's it's not gonna be super easy, so I just want to see it first, but I don't want to have them ranked too highly, so I'm gonna just throw them in there at 23.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So we're at 22 now.
Yeah. Yep.
So 22, I'm gonna have the Colts. Really like Anthony Richardson. Again, I think he's gonna be amazing in the league. Said he's 250. I don't know about all that. Maybe he can control that, but being 6'4", 250, and him being a running quarterback, ran 4.4, I would think you kind of want to be around the 230s maybe, so you can keep that 4.4 speed, or maybe get, everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people who are really gifted can get faster throughout their, career. So maybe he could get to 4.3 and be even, faster. But I don't know if you're doing that at 250. That's a lot.
That's a lot on your body.
Right. So we'll kind of see where he's at with that. Not going to call him injury prone, but he had obviously the shoulder surgery. He had the concussion, kind of on a play where he didn't really protect himself. But if he can stay healthy, he's going to be huge for them. Like what they did in the draft of getting AD Mitchell, I wanted him badly, so I think they really got to steal. And I think he was kind of done wrong. It was said that he slid in the draft because he's diabetic, but somebody tried to leak that when he doesn't have the sugar that he needs, that he's a terrible person and treats people terribly. And he kind of came out and said, like, that's not even true. And some people close to him were saying, like, where is that even coming from? And that's another thing we've talked about on here, is just people being really lazy and reporting weird things that don't make sense. So it's like, if that really was the reason why he slid, that's crazy. But great for the Colts and getting him, and hopefully he punishes everyone else for believing in that, if that's what the narrative was. But really like his tape. Obviously they already have Michael Pittman, and so they have blanking on his name, running back from Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor, exactly. Have him too. So I think that is good. Offensively, they're going to be all right. Defensively, man, they have a decent D line now.
They drafted my guy
UCLA. Latu, right. They have Kwity Paye, and then they have DeForest Buckner. So I think their D line is very solid. But outside of that, defensively, the reason why I have them where I have them is just there's nothing outside of that. The linebackers, they have EJ Speed, and I'm blanking on his name. But their linebackers they're decent. Their number one corner, Kenny Moore, the second, he's 5'9", so he usually was playing in the slot. He's made a name for himself, got paid, but he's probably going to still have to play in the slot. You don't see 5'9" guys out there on the perimeter like that, and so they really don't have any other DBs outside of him that are really a force. Their safety, same thing. So I really think defensively they're going to struggle, and it's going to kind of be on the offense to win them the games. I don't feel like their defense is really going to be able to stop anybody. So that's why I have them at 22. But hopefully, Anthony has a great second year, and then they kind of know, where they're at with him, and they can just build around him.
Yeah. For me now, at 22, I'm gonna throw the Cardinals in there. Like you said, Marvin Harrison Jr., could be a really good receiver in this league, should be a really good receiver in this league. So him with Kyler and Trey McBride and, James Conner is what he is, but, all together, I think that's a pretty good offense. I'm more hesitant to, rank them higher just because I don't know how the defense is going to play out, and their head coach / defensive coordinator is Jonathan Gannon, who famously sucked for the Eagles and went out on a sour note. So I'm not rooting for his success.
Understandable.
And, I think they had some good moments last year, and it seemed like the Cardinals bought into his nonsense. So maybe he will end up being all right, but I'm not really gonna crown them early. I need to see it first, and like you said, in that division, it's gonna be tough because I think the Seahawks, Niners, and Rams are all going to take a step forward this year. So the Cardinals, even if they do, doesn't mean they're gonna all of a sudden start winning more games.
Right.
So I think 22 is fair for them right now. We'll see if they end up being a little better, but I don't really see it at the moment. So
yeah, agreed. Definitely.
Yeah. So we're at 21.
21. So 21, I'm gonna have the Falcons.
Okay.
I'm excited for our first game versus them. I think that's a dub.
Yeah, you can catch them off guard.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, first year head coach with Raheem Morris. Hope he does his thing. Not a hater of him at all. I think he just well deserved in that position. But it's going to be Kurt coming off that Achilles, man, and as you get older, obviously that injury is hard to come back from. Definitely. And so even if he ends up having a decent to amazing season, whatever, usually everyone is rusty. Game one, you're figuring out your identity and who you're going to become, later in the season. But he's not, and his team's not only doing that, but he's going to be having to come back from that. So I think he's going to be kind of behind his teammates in that regard because of having to go through that. And, he did rupture it later in the year, I believe. It wasn't like at the beginning. So it's not like it's been almost a year or anything like that. So I think, honestly, that's going to be their detriment in that game is him kind of being really rusty. Obviously, they've had Drake London like his game. They acquired Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore. I think Darnell was kind of, a little bit better earlier in his career with the Bears. He's kind of just been, whatever. And then Rondale hasn't really lived up to what people thought he would be and having that 4.2 speed and all that. Obviously have Kyle Pitts, but he was just great at Florida. They haven't really figured out how to use him. They've said now that, Arthur Smith is gone, that they're going to use him the way he's supposed to be used, but that's all like hearsay at this point. So for me with that, I think that's going to kind of hold them back a little bit. Their defense is average. So, I'm going to have them at 21 and hopefully throughout the season they get better, but I think they're going to still struggle.
Yeah, I could see that. For me, I feel like all these next group of teams we're getting into now are like, they can end up being top 10 or they could be bottom. But I'm going to throw the Seahawks in there.
Okay.
I think who's the QB? Geno Smith, solid piece, solid QB. It's going to be interesting to see how the whole offense and team looks with, a new head coach.
Right.
Pete Carroll getting out of there and replacing him with who I think is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league last year. Why am I blanking on his name? Mike? What is it?
McDonald?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, McDonald. I think, just replacing Pete Carroll with another great defensive-minded head coach is, something that I'm looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out. But, I think that division again is going to be a tough go. It's going to be a bloodbath in there, and it's just it'll be hard to see like exactly how the Seahawks are going to end up playing because there's just new pieces, new things around them. So I'm just kind of just throwing them in this spot because I'm not really sure what to expect out of them. But I would not be surprised if they end up being, top 15 team or something if they can figure it out. It's just, a lot of new things going on. So I just want to see how it ends up.
Right.
Yeah. So now we're at 20. Yep.
Okay, so for 20, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I definitely think the team's going to look different with the exit of Dave Canales. Got to see if they can be the same without him. I agree, Baker can play, and he's shown that he still can play. Just got to see if with a different play caller, if he can do the same. That receiving core is kind of up and down with the injuries. Obviously, it's one of the better receiving cores in the league, but it seems like they can never play together. So don't know really about that. Defensively, they lost. I want to say they lost two corners. I know they lost Sean Murphy Bunting. And I want to say they lost one other.
Yeah,
because they have Jamel Dean still.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the other one. But they lose a couple DBs, so I think they're kind of just going to be whatever. Obviously, that division is not, as we've talked about, the best. So I don't think they should have an issue doing the same. You know, the Falcons are really their competition, and you know they have their own issues as well. So we'll kind of see how it shakes out. But I kind of see them in that spot.
Yeah, I can see it. That yeah, that whole division will be interesting. At 20 for me, I think I'm gonna throw the Colts in there now.
Okay.
You know, Anthony Richardson showed a lot of promise in his limited time as a rookie, but I think he showed enough to kind of not prove, but kind of show that he can play in the league. And with Shane Steichen, my guy, Shane Steichen, calling the offense there, I think they can definitely, make some noise in that division. I would not be shocked at all if they win that division. My Jags are a team that I'm trying not to quit, but they keep just doing things wrong and not building the roster they need to really compete.
Right.
Versus the Colts, they seem to have gotten the QB, got the head coach, and now I think they got the best edge rusher in the draft. So they did all the right things.
Right.
And I think they're going to be a team to look out for. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do a whole lot in the AFC because it's just they got a young QB and a decent roster, but I don't think they're good enough to really do a whole lot. So that's why I got them at 20. But I wouldn't be shocked, like I said, if they do a lot better because they're one of those teams with a piece at QB that we don't really know could be a lot better than what we've seen. So I'm excited for them. I'm rooting for them. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So we're at 19 now.
19. Okay. Yeah. So we're at 19 now, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So 19, I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
Okay.
I think again they're gonna have a better season than they had last year. But what they did with their wide receivers, they traded away, or they let Mike Williams walk, traded away Keenan Allen. Quentin Johnston, he just, struggled big time for his rookie year. And so I just don't, obviously they have Justin Herbert, even he gets a lot of credit for things that he hasn't really done yet, but we obviously see he has the talent. He just hasn't really been able to do anything with the situation that he's in. So I believe in Justin, obviously, but weapons for him to be who he is not going to be the best. They drafted Jerry Rice's son, I think, in the 5th round or whatever.
Yeah. Lad McConkey, they got too.
They got Lad McConkey as well. He's been said to be good in camp, and he's, caught on to the playbook pretty fast. But, rookies and not really sure where they're going to be at. So offensively, I think they're just going to struggle. They're going to have a great offensive line, so they're going to be able to run the football, as I'm sure. We're both blanking on people today, which is really crazy. But
we're rusty. It's been a while.
Right. Head coach. Out of Michigan. Don't understand why.
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. Obviously, that's been his mantra and his identity, running the football.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be able to do that very well with the offensive line that they have. But as far as passing the football is going to be a challenge, I believe, for them big time this season, and that's not a situation you want to have in this league the way it is now. So we'll see kind of where they're at, but I kind of think that they're going to struggle because they don't really have the offensive weapons, and that's going to kind of be addressed in the upcoming drafts.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. 19 for me. I think I'm going to have to throw my Jags in there.
Okay.
This is a team that I always am hoping is gonna prove me wrong and do better. Because I love the coach and love the QB. I think Trevor Lawrence gets a lot more hate than he deserves. Based on his situation, I think he's doing just fine and could be a lot better in different circumstances. But with that being said, it's gonna be tough. They got Brian Thomas Jr. and they're hoping to get a lot out of him, but defensively, they had a team like the Vikings who kind of just played above and better than what people expected, and usually, that's not a sign that they figured it out. That may have just been like kind of a fluky kind of year. So I would be interested to see if next year that defense is going to kind of stay relevant and still be good, or are they going to kind of fall back to earth and play at their level, which is not going to be great. But with that being said, I have them and the Colts 20-19 here based on their rankings. So I think those two teams are going to be competing for that division title, and I would hope the Jags, with their experience and coach and QB, that they are the ones to take it and hopefully make some noise in the playoffs. But if they don't, I'm not going to be shocked either, because they're just one of those teams that just seem to always kind of disappoint when they need it most. When they need those wins, they can never really get it done. But yeah, that's where I'm have them.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Now we're at 18.
18, I'm gonna have the Seahawks. As you were already saying, I think it's almost coming time where they're gonna move off of Geno. Obviously, see where he's at this season. Was a lot better 2 seasons ago, but obviously time is not really on his side, and so we're gonna kind of see what they can do offensively. They have the wide receivers and DK and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So offensively, I think they should be okay. Defensively, they got a pair of corners. Kind of the trenches is where they're not, the toughest on the D line. I know they try to make some moves and they drafted Byron Murphy II, but they're in that tough division. Rams are always going to be tough, as we talked about. Niners are already who they are, and so got them at 18, and we'll just kind of see if they can overachieve in that.
Yeah, I forgot about Byron Murphy. That's gonna be an interesting piece for Mike McDonald to play around with, because he can be special. 18 for me. I think now I'm going to put the Falcons in there. Okay. They that's another team, I'm rooting for. Raheem Morris seems like a great dude, great head coach, hopefully. Kirk Cousins, I've always been more of a fan of him than not. I think, he can do well for them, and they have a bunch of really good pieces on offense around them. It's just, the defense is really the big issue. So I'm hoping Raheem can turn it around. But with that being said, I hated what they did in the first round of the draft. I was hoping they did something for that defense, and they just got, what's his name?
Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, they got Michael Penix Jr. Which, I'm still not a fan of that pick. Even, months later, I'm still thinking about it, like, what the fuck are they doing? But, with that being said, division's going to be weak. The offense should take a step. Zach Robinson, their offensive coordinator, former PFF employee. He was recently on a podcast with Peter Schrager. I suggest people go check out. It was interesting to hear like his story and how he got from, he played at Oklahoma State with Dez Bryant. Then, eventually played in the league. Then he started working for PFF, and then was coaching on the side, and then ended up working for McVay and them. So that's another guy, I'm rooting for. All the PFF offensive coordinators, him and Bobby Slowick on the Texans. I want to see them succeed. So I have a lot of rooting interest in the Falcons, and I don't think their schedule and the way their team is set up is going to be tough for them to win some games. So 18, I think, is a fair slot to have them at.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we're at 17.
17, I'm gonna have the Jags.
Okay.
We kind of have the same around these middle of the team as we
Yeah.
were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would hope Trevor gets to finally be who we all thought he was going to be. I just really feel like the organization as a whole kind of set him back, and the pieces that they put around him and what moves have been making, I don't understand it at all. So a lot of that is not his fault. But because of that, then he tries to go, to go and do hero ball, and he'll fumble or throw an interception, and so hopefully Brian Thomas Jr. kind of takes that away. But I don't really see them being a force defensively there. Kind of middle of the pack, and for some reason always seem to fall off. I like the head coach Doug Peterson. We've talked about him also, so
Right.
hopefully they just get it together, man, because it just really doesn't make sense. But definitely it starts up top. You always hear people to talk about that, and so I really feel like that's really their Achilles heel, and hopefully that gets figured out at some point, because he deserves better, definitely, Trevor.
Yeah.
So
yeah, agreed. Now we're getting into it. I would say at 17, I think just off of yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bears at 17.
okay,
That's they're getting a lot of hype, based on their draft and their off season. And that's another Hard Knocks team we're looking forward to seeing. Hopefully, we're going to get some cool insight on them if they do Hard Knocks right. So there's a lot of speculation on how good that Bears team could be, depending on how Caleb Williams, hits the ground running entering the league. And their defense really was coming along at the end of last year. They just weren't a good team, so people weren't really paying attention to them. But
right,
if you're a ball knower, that defense was kind of cooking towards the end of the year, and I think that's part of the reason why their head coach is still around. So
yeah,
we'll see how the offense comes together, but I think the defense and the head coach seem to be good enough to be in this league, and that division, again, we've talked about it. It's going to be very tough, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears end up sliding into a wild card spot or something, doing just enough to get in the playoffs, because I think they really have a lot of good pieces in, and their QB is going to be a great player in this league. So
yeah,
I would not be shocked at all if they have a Texans type season.
okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna have them at 17 here. And
Again, that's funny. At
you got
16, for our final, we're gonna do half this episode. So
yeah.
we'll do 16, and then we'll do the rest of 16 next week.
Yep.
So for my last slot, I have the Bears. And so I kind of feel like, to your point, that they're kind of like the Jets of last season, where everyone was hyping them up because of Aaron Rodgers and everything. So now the Bears are getting hyped up because of Caleb. They have Hard Knocks, just like the Jets, kind of like a very, similar situation. But I do like their defense. They have a really, pair of DBs, lockdown corners, and Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson. They have the weapons on offense that they built around, that you would hope that you would build around a rookie, and Caleb's already going to be who we think he should be, which is, very good quarterback in the league. It's just going to be hard, obviously, in that division with the Packers and the Lions. So I kind of see them in that third slot, maybe second if one of those other teams have injuries or falls apart. But I kind of find them in that third slot. And maybe, like you said, they kind of sneak in there at the end. But I think going forward, this is going to be a team that is now talked about, and, watch out for them and Caleb, because I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, definitely. And I forgot to mention too, based on Warren Sharp's strength of schedule metric, they have the third easiest, I think that those division games are going to be tough, but outside of that, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of struggle for them.
Right.
Especially if Caleb is what we think he is, and the team clicks. I could see them doing well.
Right.
But yeah, so for my final team for this segment here at 16, I'm gonna have the Rams.
Okay.
I think offensively, Sean McVay has shown year in and year out he's the best, if not one of the best. Is always able to have a really good offense, and this time last year, people were having them ranked as a bottom 5 team, and he proved that he's a legit head coach, and that offense with Stafford and those pieces is always going to be good enough to do well. And Puka Nacua, breaking a rookie record that's been there since like 1961, I think, is very impressive. They really got a steal there. But still, the credit to me is all to Sean McVay.
Yeah,
being able to rally that team and do so much out of very low expectations. So I think they're still going to be a good team. 16 may be low for some people for them, but at the same time, defensively lost their defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, who's now the head coach of the Falcons, and I don't know if people are really talking about this enough. I mean, maybe they are, but I don't know if it's really hit for people, is that they lost the greatest defensive player in our lifetime,
right.
in Aaron Donald, and they had some rookie D tackles and some young players, Byron Young and those guys. They played really well last year, but
yeah,
it's easy to play well when you got 3 people trying to block Aaron Donald. So
exactly.
let's see, how that defense looks, and that D line, especially without Aaron Donald. We'll see how they're able to do. I think he made a major impact on that defense, and I wouldn't be surprised if they really have a tough time kind of replacing that production, because who
right.
can replace that. So yeah,
I tried to and getting Jared Verse and Brendan Fisk out of Florida State, but to your point, those are rookies, and even them together, if they end up having a great season with Brian Young, you still can't, compare that to what Aaron Donald has been for them and what he represented. So
exactly. So, I would love for them to prove me wrong again and, do better and dethrone the Niners. But if they don't, if not, I think right in the middle of the league, 16 is not terrible for them. So that's, I think that's we're gonna end it on that, and we'll get into the next, the top 16 next week. And so if you're ready, we can
wrap it up, grind my gears.
Yeah, do grind my gears. And okay, you got some? What you got? What's been grinding your gears over these last couple of weeks?
Man, mine's a little bit calmer than my other week. So
yeah, 'tis the season. Nothing's happening.
It is, exactly. There's nothing really going on. So, but I would just say, just kind of how they have the break set up for the players after the draft and free agency and all that, and OTAs. It's like they in mini camp, they go through all that, and then they're off for however long it is, almost a month, and then they go back for training camp. And I forget who was talking about it. It was on it might have been on What's Right with Nick Wright. But that has to be kind of changed, I feel like, because the way we see some people get hurt in training camp, I think can be attributed to that, where you're doing, you're not going hard crazy like you're planning for a game, but you're doing high intensity workouts, stuff like that, and then all of a sudden you're on a break. Obviously, you would hope most players are still working out, doing things, but they're on vacation, spending time with their family, whatever. But it's just a lot different, and I feel like it kind of should be where it's not that long of a period of them doing that, because then it's like your body is resetting. But now mentally you're like, okay, the season's here. Like I got to get it together. So maybe you're pushing yourself a little bit harder, but your body's kind of still like, we just did some workouts and now we chilled and now we're back to it. It's like, as an athlete, that's kind of weird for your body. And that's why you see people like tear things and all that. I know obviously these organizations have the top trainers and the equipment and everything like that. But we've kind of seen that for like the past decade or so. And it's like, maybe that kind of needs to get switched around to where it just makes more sense, where they don't have as much time off, or like it's just, kind of in sequence where they have the break first and then maybe these OTAs, minicamp and stuff happens, because I don't know. I just kind of feel like that there's too much time in between.
Yeah, no, that's a good take. Because like you said, like you ramp your body up, you're doing all these football movements, then you kind of chill, and I'm sure dudes are still working hard, like you said, but then when it comes to August, then you're ramping your body back up, and it's kind of just maybe too quick for some people, and their bodies kind of aren't ready for it, versus like a gradual incline into harder work would maybe benefit more players. And as you and I talk ad nauseum about player safety, should be more of an issue, more of a priority in this league. So I think new ideas, good ideas, should be considered, to prevent injury and shit. So I like that. I haven't really thought about that, but that's a good point, because dudes, are blowing ACLs the first couple of weeks of training camp. It's like, is it because of that break, or is is it just meant to be? It's hard to say, but who knows? No, that's good shit. My my grind my gears segment isn't really like a grind my gear segment. It's more just like I don't even know how to say it, but I guess what grinds my gears is people who can't admit that they're wrong and change their minds on things. And I'm not one of them. I was famously saying Hard Knocks is trash, and I didn't understand what they were doing. But after this offseason shit, 2 episodes in, I'm back. I'm back on it. I'm a fan of Hard Knocks again. They made Hard Knocks great again. So for anyone who was like me, and it's like, oh man, like, why are they doing the off season one? Like,
trying to get more money.
I was definitely one of those people. But after watching these first couple episodes, I'm locked in. I want to see every last conversation they have. I want more content. But going into it, I was kind of being a hater. But I can admit I was wrong, and I'm looking forward to how the rest of this season shakes out, and going into future seasons. I would love to see my teams, other teams, like show me the fucking Jags, and I want to know why and how they are coming to these conclusions and making these decisions, because it ain't adding up. The Giants are a team that they're not that poorly ran. It seems like this offseason was rough for them, but overall they're a decent franchise. So it would be interesting to see the Cowboys or someone else, their off seasons, when you got like a crazy owner who's making all the decisions. There's
Patriots.
There's a lot of possibilities with this shit, and it's not a grind my gear segment for real, but I'm just I'm just admitting defeat here, and going back on what I said, and I'm glad Hard Knocks is doing this thing. So
for sure.
But yeah, that's all we got this week. Kind of a long one for y'all, but we were off for a little bit, and
you got to get the long one now.
yeah. Next week we'll run through the next half of the league here, and see if any news comes out, and we'll talk about it all. But subscribe on all the streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify. We're on YouTube as well. Follow us on Instagram at Stillbirds Podcast, and follow us individually on all our socials at It's Your Boy CK and at Brock _IV.
Yes, sir.
And we will catch you all next week.
Yeah.